you through.
All right. 401, 426. Welcome, everybody. This is the Web 3x3 for April 26, 2023. We are doing episode 24. Today, we're going to discuss decentralized social media. What is decentralized social media? Will it become a reality? And how can you use this to make money in your business? So we're going to be discussing that. My co-host this week, as always, on the Web 3x3, the lovely Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hi, everyone. Hang on.
And Mike Neubauer.
Hi, everyone.
And Mike Neubauer. You're up.
How's it going, guys?
All right. So we're going to change up the format a bit this week, folks. We're going to try to focus on 3 stories to keep you guys in the behind the scenes. We're trying to give a little analysis, this as opposed to being a straight news program, as to you can get the news on Web3, which we do a little bit of. We're here to give you more of what it means. What is Web3? How is it developing? And how can you use it in your business? That is the purpose of this show. So our hope is that others will join us on the journey to help learn how this technology works and how we can leverage it, sales, marketing, operations. Story number 1 comes to us courtesy of your ops guy. This is coming out of M6 Labs. Social media is dead. Here's why. The story discusses how decentralized social, what it is, it's the social networks moving onto the blockchain. They differ from traditional centralized social media in 4 ways. 1, they're built on blockchains. 2, they are decentralized, which means the users own the network itself. 3, they are permissionless, right? You can build apps right on top of them without permission. And 4, they're trustless. No registration, no approvals. They can't kick you off. It is open. So, Mike, I'll let you lead the conversation since you chose this story. This was your focus for the conversation. Take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, the term social media has almost put a really bad taste in many people's mouths, right? I mean, people see that, they cringe, but yet they're addicted to it on their phones. They're addicted to the experience, the affirmation. We're actually hosting on several of those social platforms right now. It's an essential piece of content creation and I guess generating some sort of a community build. The problem with it, as has been kind of uncovered over the last, several years, is, you are nothing more than a data set that could be repurposed, resold, and, basically recycled, to various businesses, to various entities that are willing to pay for that data. Everybody treated it as its own personal diary, as their own personal diary when this thing first developed. Little did they know that they were just feeding a monster algorithm that ultimately would turn them into these products, I guess you can call it. So that's really sort of like put people on a skeptical scale lately. And, what better platform to start, I guess, combating those issues than a decentralized technology. And, again, we are still in the very infant stages of where this Web3 world is. Who knows if it'll even be Web3 for much longer. But I think that the technology has proven that these systems can exist without a centralized server system, without a data mining system, where people can actually feel like they are providing content in a scalable way that benefits themselves more than it benefits a platform. Obviously, I'm not naive to the fact that these things are businesses, right? They still need to make money. There's still very much monetary and revenue generating forces behind it. But I think that when you really boil down some of the intricate components of it, you can remove decentralized elements and still have a very successful platform. So, what's the main differences, right? We're talking about a main server farm, which stores the data, can organize the data and repurpose it in a specific algorithm, versus, a node sharing network where those systems are not necessarily needed. And, it's virtually impossible for the system to go down. If it drops, another node will pick it up and it will handle the necessary transactions to make sure that the system in its entirety continues to thrive.
So, Mike, I have a comment here. The one of the questions we raised at the outset is, will it become a reality? Do you think that decentralized social, first of all, is real? Is it? Are we going to see it?
I mean, it's here now, right? Like, I don't think that this is something that we are forecasting. Is it going to be as big as Twitter, Facebook, all these other things? Again, we run into the barrier of entry issue, right? Like people want that app on their phone that makes them waffles. I feel like I say that every single episode. That's actually going to be one of the Easter eggs at some point, right? When does Mike say that phrase? But look, I mean, once people have the ability to sign into these platforms efficiently, have the ability to figure out the monetization element with the digital wallets and connecting themselves, and once that becomes a very simple one button solution, these things will become very, very popular. I don't think we're at that stage yet.
Mike, I don't think that's going to be a one button solution. I think that's a one voice solution. This is AI.
Possibly. Very possible. And look, again, all of these, technology pieces and components will intertwine into making this an enhanced reality, because again, these exist now, and they exist mostly to people who understand the Web3 space, who understand the importance of decentralization, who understand what these other monster tech platforms are actually doing with that specific data, and don't want to assimilate with themselves anymore, whether it's censorship, whether it's any other reason. But I think that these platforms are real. They are thriving. I mean, the biggest podcast the world has ever seen just hosted one of the founders of one of them this past week. It's a company called Minds, MINDS. I played around on it. I'm just checking it out. It's a very small platform. It's a very simple platform. It's very Web3 integrated. It's got wallet integration. It has a native token for monetization. You can support, you can subscribe, you can create groups. All of it is set up on an API system on chain, so you can actually take your data with you if you decide to leave the platform. They don't have any means of storing it. It's a very interesting setup. It's still very new, and there's still a lot of work to be done in optimizing it so that it is that user-friendly experience. But it's here, man. It's really here.
So, Mike, I'd like to get some comments from Michelle, our resident content marketing queen. And with regards to growing businesses and how would people even use these tools in a decentralized social world, is it any different, Michelle? Do you think that how do you foresee this developing?
So, one of the things that I wanted to, when we were looking at this story and I was looking at the different ones, because, there's quite a few different ones listed in this article. And by the way, in the Twitter feed, I've put the article link so that people can go and have a look while we're talking about it if they'd like to do that. Just a little bit, there. There's quite a few different ones listed, isn't there? And I wonder whether how do you, like if you're a business, you go, okay, I know or I support the fact that there's decentralization in social media coming. How do I pick a platform to go into? How do I pick one, two, or two that I'm going to actually spend time with? Because I know that there is a big commitment when you pick, as a business, pick a social media platform to do. And we also know that people are on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and this and that spread themselves so thin that they're actually not very good at anything. However, conversely, what about all those people that went all in on Google Plus or originally all in on MySpace? How are you going to know which are the ones or which ones will be the best ones? And that's probably the, $100 million question, I guess.
How's your Vine account doing?
Yeah. So one of the first things as a business I would do, to be honest, is register my brand name on as many of them as I can, just so that you hold it. Doesn't mean you have to do anything with it. And then have a play around with the different ones that there are and see what feels best. Like if you feel comfortable in a particular platform, then it's likely that your customers and the people that you attract in your business are also going to feel comfortable. So that may be one way of doing it. Another way is obviously to look at the ones that have the most users at the moment and the ones that are the easiest for you to jump into and use. So, for example, I've got an account on Mastodon. I haven't tried Minds, which Mike just told us about tonight. But, there's a few that you might want to just have a play around with and see, you will eventually work out who's going, like which one or two are going to be the ones that people flock to the most. And it will probably be the ones that offer the most in terms of decentralization, but similar feel to what we're used to in Web 2.
So I think you're missing an important element here that separates those platforms that we're accustomed to in Web 2 versus what I'm seeing in these decentralized platforms, right? So as a small business, if I go out and I start a Facebook page, am I inclined to go out and buy Facebook stock? No, the answer is no. You probably won't. If same thing with Twitter, same thing with Google, same thing with all this. Maybe you will, but the reality is that your presence on those platforms is not an incentive to go out and invest into that platform. Versus these decentralized systems that have these native, ERC20 coins or these native coins that act almost as a currency within that platform. That almost incentivizes you to grow within the platform. There's reward systems. There's loyalty. Deposits that are made based on engagement. You are investing not only into your marketing strategy, but you're bringing your community in these platforms to also invest, which also allows the overall system to grow and everybody to monetize on the same side. I'm using the term invest very loosely. It's not like, go put your money where your mouth. It's basically you are signing up for this native coin that has liquidity, right? And then you can create different strategies, different elements in your engagement, in your marketing strategy that literally could lead to a revenue generating source using that token. And I think that is a massive component that we're missing in this conversation so far. As far as the business side of things go, the elements of targeting those users are still there. The difference is that your input into these algorithms do not define who gets to see what information. You get to choose which information you want to see. And as a business, if you want to boost your content towards people who selected those interests, that's who you are going to get your content in front of. If nobody selects the information that you're trying to boost, then it won't monetize anything, right? There's no money that will be made. Versus something like Facebook, where if I like a post on the New York Giants because they made a trade or they did a good play, all of a sudden I'm categorized and I'm boxed into this category of male, age, whatever, sports, football, like all of these different categories that these businesses can now target. And I voluntarily did that just by simply hitting a thumbs up button.
Right. So I want to actually highlight something that Michelle had said. Mike, all great points. The concept, Michelle, of registering your brand name just to have it secured is not a bad idea. For those who aren't familiar, we're talking decentralized social networks right now. The popular ones would be Steemit, Minds, Mastodon. All of these, you can do a preemptive registration of your company / brand logo, whatever it is you want to, your mark, if you will. And it's not a bad call. Mike, to your point about the whole tokens, I think that's what people haven't realized yet. We've moved away from the NFT rush is over right now as we're in the AI world. And so that doesn't negate the fact that this technology is still out there and people can still build a following and get paid. Really, you can build business with these tools. And I don't think people understand that yet. It's still just kind of dabbling.
And I agree with that. Like, I think people like us, Mike, would go, oh, they've got a token. That's great. I might be able to make money out of that. But, brand down the road from me here who is on Web 2 and knows they need to get into Web 3 because they heard about it from their taxi driver, they don't know about that yet. They will, but at the moment they don't know about that. So all they're looking at the moment is, where are my customers, or where can my customers go, or where they might be in the future, and how do I put myself in front of them there? A bonus will be later that they'll realize that they can make money from tokens as well.
But what's really interesting is that framework is already in place, right? Because social media, Web 2, Facebook, Twitter, I mean, I've explained this in many different occasions in lectures and other areas as well. If everybody in the world stopped using Facebook for 5 days, Facebook goes out of business, right? It cannot accumulate money. It cannot sell advertising. It's no one is able to target. We collectively have that power. We just don't utilize it, right? So again, their whole business model is premised on the addiction for affirmation, right? I want that little thumbs up to appear. I want that notification to appear on my phone. I want to check out who liked my stuff, who saw my stuff, who watched my video, view certain analytics. Did that hot chick that I was looking to, ask out, did she like my post? Ooh, that means something. Like, this is the world that they've created for us. Now, if you take that exact same feeling and you add a specific element of monetization to it, now you're talking about something different. You're taking the exact same feeling, the exact same rush that you get from that notification, and now you're bridging that to some sort of a monetary value. I think once people understand that potential, this is going to get much larger.
Interesting. So I'm going to take us to story number 2 on the back of this, which is related. This is off of cryptonews.com. Decentralized Twitter alternatives are experiencing rapid growth. This article discusses how the social media landscape is shifting because of the introduction of decentralized alternatives, specifically to Twitter. As Michelle will explain, Twitter is somehow incendiary, and many people are moving off of it for a lot of reasons. But 2 that they specify, Bluesky and Nostr. These are 2 decentralized platforms seeing rapid growth, both of which are backed by the former Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey. Those who follow the show will know about Web3. And so this is basically promising users more control over their data. And it's not necessarily a money maker, as we're talking about with tokens. It's more of, you're in Web3 style in charge of your data. Mike, to your point, if I want to click on a button, it doesn't give away the farm with who I am, and I'm going to get pummeled later with ads. So they're gaining traction slow and steady. I would not call this a rush in, but I would say it is attracting enough folks like us who simply want to see what it's about. And I think that those of us who remember Rally.io, right, back in the day, there was competition, if you will, or a contest of what creator tokens were in what ranking on this platform. We're not going to see that dynamic, I believe, as we enter this decentralized social world. It's not a race in that regard anymore. It's not new, but there is going to be a bit of a cachet, much like you have follower count now, is going to be the tokens will help drive an ecosystem, which is their purpose. It's not to make money. So I'm frankly, in the business sense, I'm a fan of what Twitter's doing. I actually believe, and this is just my opinion, that Twitter will end up doing some version of this Web3 approach. Right now, Bluesky and Nostr and the Jack Dorsey teams are showing how this can be done, and I find this article interesting. Michelle, if I could ask you to drop this in the chat, I don't know if you did or not. I apologize. Thank you. Johnny on the spot. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing people try it out. Let's see where it goes. There's no get rich quick thing here anymore, which is nice. Thoughts?
So, quick side note. Ironically, that Minds platform incorporates Nostr into its algorithm, right? So you do have that privacy key using this exact technology that you're describing here, in this decentralized format on this social platform, right? You have that API privacy key that's provided from that Nostr mainframe. So again, this is the all roads lead to Rome technology integrating within technology, nodes utilizing other nodes, all in an effort to probably, try to convince that these elements of you are in charge of your own destiny on the internet has a platform and a home that you can sort of rely on. And it's a very difficult thing for me to say it like that because nobody's been able to rely on anything for anybody. But this is a totally different way of skinning the same cat of social engagement and content creation.
Michelle, what are your thoughts on this? Do you see this as a lark? Is this a get rich quick thing?
I don't know about the thing because I mean, I talked about made money when Twitter got sold. It wasn't Twitter losing money almost the entire time he was in charge of it. What was that,
I was
Marc?
going to say, during the heyday of big companies and manias, it doesn't matter if they're making or losing money. When they get sold, they make money, the owners.
Yeah, sure. I've forgotten it entirely now what the question was.
Well, I feel like people, that whole washover of NFTs, the crypto winter, let's call it, which I think we're coming out of, I think that's reset people's expectations as to tokenization as a business model, which I like. And I think that there is a need, Mike, you can put your nail on the head there. The people don't want their data being scattered across the internet. They want control. There's a whole generation of kids, and they are kids, expected. So the fact that there's an alternative now.
So a really interesting thing at a talk when I was at NFT NYC 2 weeks ago, Brian Fanzo, High Social Fans on Twitter that we talked about before, was talking about, like, he's been in data security, cyber security. He's got, like, has had Pentagon clearance previously in the past. He's been a marketer for the last 15 years or so. He does high-level talks. He's worked for, Disney, Deloitte, like all sorts of really high-profile companies and all that. He's got, he did a podcast every day for a year. So he's got a lot of content on the internet. And he said when people Google his name, the top Google search on him is when he won a poker tournament 15 years ago. Now, he said, that is probably not in my current line of work, the thing I want people to know the most about me. So by having the ability to control your data on Web3, meaning that you can have something that a link is to you, you have information on there that you want people to know about you in the order that you want them to know it, like your website, your awards, your accolades, your whatever, then you are able to give people that information on the blockchain so that it can be verified. They know that it's you, they know that it's true, and it's not something that's served up or dished up to them by Google's algorithm or Facebook or whatever. And so I think that that is what's coming, and I believe that that will be something that people will embrace once they realise that's how they are able to do it and that they can curate it themselves rather than Google curate it for them.
I'm going to connect dots here for a second, and Mike, you're going to behead me for this, but this does actually tie into AI in the sense that you can now automate content generation. You can also automate engagement. And so in the world of SEO, for example, you're going to have an onslaught of people being advertised to, because this is all press button stuff. And so the reaction to that will be folks that want what you are saying. I don't want to just be able to, I want to be able to go on the internet and not get emailed or followed because I was on something. I want to be able to control my information. And I think that the AI push, the back end of that will lead to people realizing, wait a minute, I need what this thing offers. So I think it's a second order effect.
I mean, I feel like, again, we're very immersed into the technology and the technology in its whole, right? We read up on it, we study it, we build on it, we do all sorts of different things, we market with it. So it forces us to truly understand what this, my data is being sold mentality. But I feel like if you ask the average person, like, hey, do you mind if your data is being sold on Facebook? I almost feel like it's a registered response without a true understanding of what that data actually is, right? So, if you are a fan of puppies and you just search videos on puppies, and let's not kid ourselves, right? Search engines are AI tools, right? The algorithms are, they are automated based around a user input. If that algorithm pumps out puppy videos to you all the time and you're happy, do you really care if your data is being sold, if you're really getting what you want? I just don't understand. I don't think people truly understand what that, harvesting of data and the fact that you are now a commodity, these massive conglomerates really means. And I'm not defending them. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like that, people still need to understand what's happening before they can say whether they agree to it or not.
I got to share a funny thought, Mike. I've had conversations with guys my age, middle-aged former finance guy, and they're all like, "Yeah, I don't like TikTok. It's just a bunch of dancing girls." And I'm like, you know how algorithms work, right? You get what you look at. My TikTok is Gary Vaynerchuk yelling at me and Alex Hormozi constantly. So the fact is, they are AI tools. People have not yet understood that. They know it theoretically, but I will argue back at you, Mike, that there's been no real choice. There's no real alternative to Twitter right now. People love Twitter and they hate it. Where else are they going to go? What is the water cooler of countries?
Well, I mean, we became a global community so fast using this thing called internet, right? And look, we bounced around from various platforms. It was AOL chat spaces. It was MySpace. I mean, there was communication and, these types of things happening within Napster, I remember forums and Napster that really kind of, you know, people were downloading music and sharing different thoughts and ideas with. I mean, so, you know, the reality is that building these platforms is not the problem. Marketing and getting the people to those platforms is the challenge. And there's some sense of there has to be some incentive to get people there. And typically that starts more on the cultural front, right? You got movies, you got actors, actresses, sports figures, you know, the people that, you know, feel important enough to want to follow whatever platforms they are on. They're the ones that are going, you know, influencers. We'll call it influencers. Even that same girl that we talked about last week who shows her ass off at the gym. You know, like they have a specific following and they have the ability to monetize from that following on these various platforms, and it will draw people. It will draw attention. The question is though, like, are there alternatives? The premise of this whole podcast today is talking that there are alternatives. There's a lot of barriers to entry, in my humble opinion, that's going to prevent the flock of people from going there right away. But again, I mean, like, Minds is just an example. I don't advocate for them. Like I said, I just started it, but you know, I watched a 3-hour podcast with Bill Otterman or whatever the hell the owner's name is on Joe Rogan, who can reach hundreds of millions of people at any given moment, right? Like, this is not a small time thing. This is a guy that has a platform in the form of a podcast, which everyone and their mother has a podcast now, but this guy was one of the first ones to really make it work, talking about this other social platform, this decentralized network. I mean, call it what you will. Maybe it's just information based, but that had an opportunity to reach many, many more people than knew it existed before that show happened.
Yeah. I'm going to take this opportunity on the back of your comment there, Mike, to add that none of this constitutes financial advice. This is a conversation for business purposes and education. Nothing we say is meant to be in any way, shape, or form investable or financial guidance. That being the case, we are sponsored by your ops guy. Tools. I'm going to take us into story number 3 here from our lovely content queen. Roblox adds rare resellable digital items, but they're not NFTs. This is coming off Decrypt. And the basic story premise is that Roblox has recently, the game, introduced limiteds, a feature allowing creators to produce and sell in-game items. Now, they didn't create them as NFTs. They are doing it inside of a closed ecosystem that is not blockchain backed. And it's very similar if you're familiar with avatar skins. You can pay up for in-game items. Now, because of this, this is creating friction with the fans, obviously, and potential opportunity for their competitor, Fortnite, which is Epic Games. And Epic Games right now with Fortnite has not embraced Web3, right? They don't have any integrations of native Web3 features. So were they to do that, and they haven't yet or said that they're going to, but if they were, there is definitely a window, or it seems, from this article. Michelle, I'll let you lead the conversation. This was your choice.
So I picked this because I thought it was a good, you know, like a good flip side of the coin to the 2 articles that you guys picked regarding decentralization and where we're going with that and what the future is of that. So interestingly, that Roblox have come out and introduced these things. Now, it, you know, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like an NFT, quacks like an NFT, but unfortunately, it's actually not an NFT. What we are trying to do, though, is sort of say, well, it's our version of being an NFT, therefore you should come and, you know, buy them, use them, whatever. So what they're doing is creators to create limited edition items, and the person who originally created it will get a royalty each time it's sold within the ecosystem. So the seller will get a proportion, I think it's 40%, the creator gets 30%, but what actually happens is that Roblox takes 30% of your potential sales up front. So what they're saying to you is, well, if you create this hand glove thing for your game, this particular game, then if you create 10 of them and they're $10 each, then they're going to take 30% of 10 by 10 up front before you even actually make a sale on your item. Now, some of these, and there's a paid back, there's a complicated, you know, how much percentage you get back and, you know, that kind of thing up to the percentage that the creators are able to keep. But it's a complicated system. It created angst amongst the community. They're not happy about it. They're not happy for lots of reasons, because there's a sale period, and once the sale period's over, there's some articles I read said that you won't be able to trade them anymore. Some said that you can, but the fact that you're going to be able to have limited trading means that if you're the last person holding it when the sale of that item stopped, obviously it's going to go up if at some point in the future, like you're able to trade them again. So people are saying that it's, making things elitist and you can't get in, it's not fair and all of that. Now, for those of us that didn't buy Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, it's $650 when they first came out, and then people are buying them for $1 million now. Well, I just, maybe we could all complain about that. So, I mean, I think that kind of thing is just the nature of capitalism, and people are going to have to suck that up. But the reason why I picked the article was that I thought they have such a huge opportunity here to actually be the first or one of the leaders in this. They've got so many users already. They have people that are hungry for the products and the games and the way their ecosystem works, and they're already spending money within the system now anyway. The fact that they're not thinking about creating NFTs on the blockchain that could move around into different games rather than be tied to a particular game is a missed opportunity for them. And it's something that we have talked about many times. And originally, when I think maybe 10 shows ago, we talked about the rumor that Roblox was going to be able to, we're going to create NFTs and all of that. And this is what they've come up with. Huge disappointment.
So I've got two comments. Number one, for about a year, my company was handling content development for Cornucopia, which is the play-to-earn game on Cardano. And the one thing I took away from that and leading that effort was these in-game items that you have to pay money for, the gamers can't stand it. Like, it's the concept of Roblox is doing exactly what their gaming fan base would not want them to do. And I feel like setting themselves up, this is in the Bud Light category of like you're going against your fan base. Whether you agree or not, I understand they want control of these quasi NFTs. That is not what the fans want. In the end, if you violate that trust, you lose your fan base. Mike, what are your thoughts on this whole matter?
I mean, it is interesting to see some of the biggest gaming systems and platforms in the world not utilize this technology the way that, we know it could be used at this point, right? My comment, I guess, mostly goes on the trust element. You are trusting Roblox to provide you with that commission, or that, the proper analytics are based on what you are building for them that is selling. And I feel like it's a cheap way for them to build assets for the game as well. You just have users do it, tell them when and how much they can monetize. You take a huge chunk of icing off the cake. To your point, Mark, for some of our older listeners, I'll quote Triplet on this, Mr. Triplet. Like, he's a huge gamer. And, his comment to us on one of the episodes when he was up on stage was like, it sucks when you dedicate all your time and effort into building up a character, getting to a certain point in the game, and all of a sudden an 11-year-old who grabs mommy's credit card can get to the same level as you just by buying everything and calling it a day. Now that's more of the ability to play the game, but that kind of proves your point about how, you want to get all these incentives and these cash grabs. Buying these assets and buying these digital components to either enhance or participate in the game, it has a mixed feeling amongst the actual gaming community, which are the fans, right? Like that's the people that you actually should be targeting. And, I brought up this point on this show before too. Like, we also live in a world where, they are a business, and understanding where the business market lies, LeBron James sells more avatar jerseys than he does real jerseys, right? Like, that's just the sad reality that we live in today, where people want to I guess, get some sort of a social status based around a digital avatar than actually doing something themselves.
Right.
And that's the metaverse. That's the social platform. That's the social affirmation that we were talking about earlier. It's all part of the same equation. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's you know, if these companies recognize that that's a trend and they decide not to monetize it, I mean, from a business perspective, that's not a good decision. So
Right.
I don't really blame them that much.
So
So
that, you know, like I had someone, I don't know, a week or two ago was talking about something similar to this. They said, oh, the gaming community hates NFTs. They're never going to buy NFTs, blah, 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 right? And I think that shows, though, the mentality or the lack of foresight in what and having an avatar or a glove or a knife or a sword or whatever as an NFT can actually do for them. So like if you had everything that you used in CSGO and you were able to put that into Fortnite, or you were able to then move that to, you know, what is it? Gran Turismo
GTP.
5 or whatever, you know, like the potential of that in terms of expanding the games is huge, let alone the money aspect of that. Because if you've got a Fortnite skin, which you can't trade, I mean, I think you can with CSGO ones, but, you know, like if you can't trade the items that your parents have bought for you, or if you've spent your own money buying it, then the value of that and what you can do with that longer term is limited. So thinking, oh, NFTs are bad or whatever. The other thing about this too, which is in the article, which because I was talking, I hadn't put it in, which I will in a minute, into the chat, is that because it's not on the blockchain, there's no record of who's owned it. There's no record of what and who and where this particular skin or avatar or whatever's been, which is what the blockchain does give you. It's authenticated, you know who the creator was, all of that stuff, which you can't do when it's just created in an in-app game purchase.
Right.
So I'm gonna tie this whole conversation together utilizing this last story, because I think it actually makes a little bit more sense, and it kind of shows the direction that they could be heading in. And I don't know if they realize it yet, but they definitely could. You look at a platform like Roblox, Decentraland, any Fortnite, any of these are nothing more than glorified social media platforms. Right? If you think about it, it checks all the exact same boxes. It creates social status. It creates social affirmation. It's engaging. It forces you to come back for more. It forces you to build up something, whether it's a followership in traditional social media or a different level status and point system in a gaming system. The entire system, as we just proved using this small example of Minds, it can become monetized. Right. So rather than building these things up so that you end up buying one of those skins or those avatars, you can actually take that decentralized gaming platform that rewards in this play to earn or this play to engage or this play to, this pay to something with some sort of a native token that therefore has a liquidity pool where people can actually monetize by either A, playing the game, B, bringing people into the game, C, having NFTs that are incorporated on these multi-platform channels and monetizing from the sale of those NFTs as well, all utilizing a native token. And that native token can be bridged out and swapped into something else that obviously leads to a different element or a different gaming platform too. All of these are interconnected utilizing the Web3 technology. And again, to summarize all this, it's nothing more than just an enhanced social media platform, which is what the topic of today's discussion is really about.
So I may be dating myself or maybe not, but for those who may remember a few years ago, Technoblade versus Dream in Minecraft, you guys remember this at all? Am I pulling this out of a hat? So there was a battle between two top world-class Minecrafters who were doing you can PvP, you play to the death in Minecraft to kill each other. Anyway, the two best guys in the world, money was put up. I think it was Mr. Beast who put the money up. But for $100,000, these two guys face off. True story. In real life, against each other, and it was a huge event. My kids were little at the time, and they were like gathered around like it was the Super Bowl. And so my point is, Mike, you're so on the money with it being a social network. 100%. It's in there with esports. Like, people gather at these things to watch, to engage. It is definitely addictive. It's got all the hallmarks of social media, and gaming, as we know, in the entertainment space, music, gaming, there's certain fields that lend themselves to this. This is it. This is where social is entering a new version of itself, if you will. I think you nailed it with that.
The online element, the online element of it just exasperated that whole concept, right? I mean, I remember as a kid waiting online at Toys R Us to buy the next video game cartridge. Like, that world doesn't exist anymore. Like, if you're not playing online, you are literally wasting your money, because that's where all of this gaming occurs.
What's a video game cartridge?
I mean, that predated CD-ROMs, man. Blowing the dust off of them. I mean, come on. I'm showing my age now.
All right, so
at NFT NYC, there was a couple of panels that I attended where people talked about the next 12 months in the space and what's going to happen and whatever. There are several games, big games, that are coming that take 2 to 3 years to develop, but they're at almost that 2.5 to 3 years now. And a couple of the people, there was OpenSea people and AWS and Amazon and, all sorts of people that were there, and they were saying they think that this year a breakout game will come. And that will actually bring people like the kids who don't like NFTs or don't like Web3, but they play, whatever, into Web3 because of this particular game. So they think that's going to happen this year. There'll be lots of games come out, but there will be one breakout game. They don't know which one it will be yet, but they're absolutely certain in the next 12 months there will be one.
I'll tell you exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be some 12-year-old kid who sits in his room over the course of a weekend with ChatGPT and creates it. That's going to be the framework for where this develops, and it's going to evolve from there. And I couldn't go an episode without mentioning GPT.
I wanted to open this up for some thoughts, comments, questions from the Peanut Gallery on Twitter Spaces for those who care. Before I do, we are on Web3 by 3 on LinkedIn every week. That is Web3 BY the number 3. So if you guys could give us a follow on LinkedIn, we'd appreciate it. If you find this conversation helpful in any way, that's terrific. We're not trying to sell anything. There is no back end to this. You're not going to get marketed to. This is simply us trying to help people understand and apply the principles of Web3 this week in the decentralized social version of it. So I will leave this to my lovely colleague, Michelle, to walk us through how to ask questions, but we are open to conversations, comments, or anything people want to raise to come on stage.
So what we
1 second, Michelle, let me just make one other comment before we jump there. Next week, we actually have a very special episode. The three of us will actually be together in Cleveland at the Creator Economy Expo, which is where we all first met. It's kind of a reunion episode, so to speak, but I'm excited to do this in person. I believe we're going to have a different time slot. We're going to try to shoot for Wednesday at noon Eastern time rather than 4 Eastern time. So definitely want to check that one out. We might even have some live guests with us as well. People, fans of the show, we know that there's going to be some people there as well. But that's going to be one really cool episode to tune into.
So I would call it a union episode more than a reunion. We've never actually done this together, boys and girls. Like, this is the first time the three of us have been in the same room. Yeah. Michelle, go ahead. You can read.
Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to say goodbye to our viewers on LinkedIn and YouTube. So Marc will cut off the